everybody. Welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering women through storytelling and education. I am a certified birth doula and a prenatal coach, and I'm super passionate about informing people about their birthing options, about their healthcare options in general, and just ways that we can be the best versions of ourselves when it comes to trying to conceive, parenting, and everything in that season of life. I am deep in that season of life with my 8-month-old, and I'm just wondering, when do they sleep through the night? Because it is rough. I'm like at a point where I don't know what to do. I'm so tired, but I know that it's a phase. This too shall pass. And one day she will be sleeping through the night. And so I do try to like cherish all the moments that I wake up and I'm nursing her and just taking it in. But whenever people are like, oh yeah, my baby started sleeping through the night at 4 months, I'm like, shut up. Just being honest. That's what I think in my mind. Or like, oh, really? Good for you. Because it's rough and all kids are different. But then I'm so blessed in the fact that like when she's awake, like she's the happiest baby. She's so easy, just loves life, so happy, and just like such a joy to be around. So she's not a picky eater. She's not picky about really anything. Loves the dog, loves to play with her toys, mostly loves the laundry basket right now. But she's just so much fun. So, I mean, we all have our things, you know. I'm just really feeling tired these days. So it's all you moms out there who, your babies aren't sleeping through the night yet. I feel your pain and your struggle, and I see you, and we are in this together. If you guys didn't listen to last week's episode, Leslie Murphy was on and she shared her birth story and just what new mom life has been like for her. And it was fun. It was fun talking to a new mom who went through this whole thing in a pandemic, and she just has a great perspective. She's dealt with some online hate, and she kind of talked about that as well. But also just how you have to be confident in yourself as a mom. Which is sometimes a really hard thing to do, but we had a really great conversation about it. So make sure you go back and listen to that if you haven't listened to it yet. Next week, we have on Christy Lucasiac, and she is from the Dance Moms, and she's just so much fun. Oh my gosh. I honestly didn't watch the show and didn't know too much about her, but I was researching her before the podcast and just like looking up different stuff about her and her Instagram account, and I'm like, wow, she looks like she's so much fun. And then talking to her, I was like, I love this lady. She's awesome. So you definitely want to check out next week's episode. She's such a joy, and yeah, she's funny. She's a funny mom. And she's been through a lot, lived that reality life world, and now helps people kind of in that transition phase of becoming an adult into adulthood and learning all those things that your parents never taught you or school didn't set you up with these life skills for, and she has resources for that. So she's just a blast to talk to. This week we have on the Minimalist Mama, and I needed this episode. I have a lot of clutter in my life, and I just need to get rid of a bunch of stuff. And we don't even like talk that much about it. It's just like she just even like having the conversation with her and noticing little areas where I could declutter some things are really, really helpful. I know Vito is excited for me to have this interview. He's very much like hates clutter, get it out of the way, throw it away, I don't care, like type of person. And I'm like, wait, we might use this one time 10 years from now. I need it. So we can't throw it away, because then what happens when we need it? Then we're going to have to go buy it. And guess what? I haven't needed most of those things yet. So it's a great episode. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from Diane. Before we dive into the episode, I want to update you guys on some podcast stuff. So this next year, we're going to be going through some changes. We're going to do some rebranding to the podcast, which is super exciting. And I'm I'm really excited to launch it and collaborate with you guys and just offer more information on here for you guys. And we're going to change some of the structure and some things in the podcast. So that'll be happening like over the next 6 months to a year. So sometime in 2021. But I just want to give you guys a heads up. So that when the name and everything changes, that you guys are aware. So make sure right now that you are subscribed to the podcast. So when we do rebrand, that you're still going to be updated on all the episodes and everything coming your way. And so that you're not surprised, like, wait, what is this podcast? I didn't sign up for this. You did. It's me. And there's going to be amazing content coming out. So I'm super excited. But yeah, I'm excited for you guys to hear about the Minimalist Mama, and we will dive right into it. All right, everyone, I have Diane Bowden here, and I'm so excited to talk to her. I know if you guys have been listening to the podcast, you probably know that I'm not the most organized person with my time or personal belongings or anything in my life. So I'm super excited to have her on because she is the Minimalist Mom, and she helps people live simply and minimally. And her podcast is awesome. She has experts come on to talk about how to bring minimalism into different aspects of their lives. But she is here with us today, and I'm so excited to talk to her. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to your podcast, so I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because, like I said, I am not great at living minimally. So I was cracking up. So I'm going on her podcast. She's coming on my podcast, and she was sending me some questions, and you didn't ask it, but one of them was like, how are you living minimally in your life? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not.
Yeah, it's definitely going to look different for everyone. And I think that's one of the biggest ideas that I want people to take away from the show is that living with less doesn't look the same for all people. And I think when you start comparing minimalism, your minimalism to maybe, I don't want to throw the minimalists under the bus, but those guys have like white walls, one chair. It's like, I have 3 kids. That's not realistic for me. And so what is realistic for my family? And that's what I try to do with the show is have guests of various backgrounds and different expertise come on. And then how can we apply what they're saying to my pursuit and the desire that my family has in this life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. So I would love for you to tell us, how did you become the Minimalist Mama?
So I would say that, yeah, I was all about shiny things. I wanted to have a new outfit every Sunday that I would go to church. And I just didn't really value, I guess, the time that I spent working and just wasting money. So in my early 20s is when I started to pursue minimalism. And I wouldn't even say that it was minimalism at that point. It was more frugality. And the moment that I had was somewhat of a light bulb moment. My husband and I were in my parents' basement. And to paraphrase him, he said, look at these things that are now in boxes that were once your dad's hard-earned work hours. And for some reason, I guess I'd never connected the two things, that I'm working for money that I use on things. And I just didn't want things to one day be filling my basement. And I don't think that I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with that. I had an idyllic childhood, but I think even holding on to things once they are overdue their welcome, that's what I didn't want. And I didn't just want to have all that stuff. So I wanted to really focus on experiences, and it really just got the ball rolling to how I wanted to live differently. But I would say I was quite the opposite of a minimalist prior to that.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to take a break from this episode to talk to you about my favorite jewelry line, and that is Ana Luisa jewelry. I got myself a while ago the necklace that says Mama on it, and I wear it all the time. It's one of my favorite pieces. Also, the medium gold hoops. I rock those all the time too. And what I love about them is that they are carbon neutral. Their prices are fair, and they are amazing quality, very long-lasting pieces that are crafted to be those curated pieces that you can throw with anything. You can dress an outfit up, you can make it casual, and they match everything. And you can wear them every single day. And also they make everything in limited batches, which means that they don't overproduce it. So they don't just have a bunch of jewelry hanging out. They limit their batches, making sure that the highest production standards are being met while eliminating excess waste. Another reason why I love them is that they have jewelry that can go for any occasion. And like I said, I bought myself the mama necklace a while ago, and I just ordered a few more pieces. Their rings are another one of my favorites. I'm a huge fan of dainty jewelry, and they have some really nice dainty rings that fit really nicely and are really high quality. I know that Mother's Day is over now, but it's not too late to get yourself or your mom or your best friend or anyone that you know a nice piece of jewelry from Ana Luisa. They also come out with new jewelry collections every single Friday. So right now, head over to Ana Luisa, that's ANALUISA.com/miraculousMD to go treat yourself and your loved ones. And you can use the code MiraculousMD to get 15% off. I absolutely recommend them to everyone that I know who's looking for some new jewelry. So go to Ana Luisa, that's ANALUISA.com/miraculousMD and use code MiraculousMD. So everything you just said brought up like 12 different memories for me. Because I've always kind of believed in using my money on experiences. I would much rather, instead of like save up and buy something, I'd rather save up and like go on a vacation with my family and do something like that. So, and I've been that way for a very long time. However, I wonder if there's also a personality difference of people, because as a child, I would legitimately collect rocks like everywhere we went, and I would pick up this rock. I'd be like 6 years old and be like, this is where my family went on a picnic and we stopped on the side of the road, and I'm going to cherish this rock forever. And I would put it in the trunk. And my parents said one time we had so many rocks in the trunk going on this road trip that they were like throwing them out when I wasn't looking, because I was gathering so many. And like when my grandma passed away when I was 8 years old, I kept the Kleenex that I cried on and put it in a box, like as an 8-year-old child. Like, who does that? So I'm like, am I just like, are some people just born really nostalgic? Because I am getting better at it, way better. But for the longest time, I had the hardest time throwing things away, because I'm like, then I'm throwing this memory away.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're really sentimental. So that is, I would never tell someone apart with their sentimental objects. I always say, which we can get into this here, but I always say start in the bathroom when you're decluttering, because typically there are not very many items in there that you're feeling that sentimental connection to. And so, yeah, don't start with the baby clothes. Don't start with the photographs. Don't start even with the high school yearbooks. Let's get those small wins under our belt, and then we'll move forward. But it sounds like you were just very sentimental.
I was a very sentimental child. Yeah, so I would love for you to kind of tell us about a struggle that you see moms facing today with clutter and when it comes to minimalism.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is that as moms, we are decluttering, but we'll declutter, and I think that we think it's a one and done thing. But with children, you're right. They're constantly bringing things in. They're bringing those rocks in. They're saving these little trinkets that they find. And so I think we misunderstand, I guess, what either minimalism is or what decluttering is going to look like. I think it's something that's constant and that you're going to have to constantly reassess and reevaluate. And I would say that is something that people maybe don't understand at the beginning of this. The other thing is that if your listeners are familiar with Gretchen Rubin, she talks about this idea of the 1 minute rule. And I love it. It's something that you can do. If there's something that you can do within 1 minute, you do it. So for example, if you have mail that needs to be sorted, you typically can get that done in under 1 minute. If you have a plate from lunch that you can just rinse off really fast and put in the dishwasher, get that done. If you want to hang up your coat or put whatever it is away, if you can get that done in a short period of time, don't allow that clutter to build throughout your day, because then at the end of the day, when you're tired and not really wanting to clean, it builds. So say you don't address it that night, then you are going to have a house at the end of the week on the weekend that you're not going to want to clean up. And so I think that any little thing that I can get done in these little little snippets of time has been really helpful. And again, I think that is something that just makes it hard to stay on top of if we're not addressing these little clutter causers in our day to day.
One thing that I've been working on is trying to get a little pep in my step. Because when I do things, it takes me forever. And I realized this when I was recently visiting my sister, because she was saying her oldest daughter and I are very similar. And my sister's always been like this busybody. Like she's always like, boom, boom, boom. Like when she cleans something, I'm like, how did you clean that already? Like, I'm still just like on the corner. Like, how did you clean this entire room when I've basically done nothing? And, we just like work very differently. And she was saying that when her daughter vacuums, like she takes forever and likes to see the lines. And I'm like, that's exactly how I am. Like when I vacuum, I like to make the lines in the carpet and I take forever, but I'm working on trying to get a little pep in my step because I know that I could put Joey down for a nap and spend like the first 5 minutes just picking up. I could vacuum really quick and whatever be done. Instead, it's like taking up almost the entire nap time and then I'm not getting very much done. So I'm trying to force myself to like be quick. So I love that 1 minute thing because sometimes I'll set like a 5-minute timer on my phone and it's like, just get done as much as you can in 5 minutes. And then that forces me kind of to move quicker.
Yeah. So it's like time blocking. And I do that same thing at nap time. I will say this 15 minutes is for this 15 minutes is for this, because I felt like I was putting my kids in their rooms every day. And then I would just either start working on the podcast or I'd clean or I would do whatever that was not fun. And then after they came out of their rooms, I didn't feel rejuvenated. And sometimes you need that rejuvenation going into the second half of your day, especially that 4 o'clock kind of witching hour. So I feel like if you do have that time blocking of this is what I'm going to get done. Again, Gretchen Rubin uses the 1 minute rule, but you could do it 5 to 15, depending on how long your children are in their rooms. But I feel like you definitely need some time in there for self-care, whatever that looks like. For me, sometimes it's just reading a book. So, I think that's really helpful. And then also you said that your sister cleans faster than you, but I'm also wondering what your sister's home looks like, not to throw either one of you under the bus.
It's spotless. She's like, ever since we were little, she's been a clean freak. She's been like, whatever. And I'm very la, 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 la. And so she's very like, very, very clean. And her closet is very minimal. It's like, very.
So there's a difference between, how do I phrase this? So you can be really organized and have a lot of stuff. And so I guess my idea is curate a home with the things that are essential. And if that word is too overwhelming to you, the things that you really love. So Marie Kondo talks about how you shouldn't own anything that doesn't spark joy. And I'm not a huge believer in that because I do have to own a hammer, even though I don't think a hammer sparks joy in me. But I also don't want to hold on to things that are weighty. And that could be a dress that used to fit pre-baby that no longer fits me. Why would I keep that? Why would I keep that weight on my shoulders? I want to wear the things that make me feel good now and moving forward. And typically you can find a dress for under $20 if you really need a dress. But the memory of that dress when you once wore it, that memory is not going anywhere. That item is just a representation of that memory. So I think that's one thing. Sorry, I'm like tangenting now. No, but I would just say that like, it's all about curating a home with less. And I think so many people are like, oh, I'm really organized, but they're still overwhelmed because they have too much stuff. And it's hard to sort through all that and have that, again, that weight of things in our home that we don't necessarily need, but don't know what to do with.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what I've been going through for 2 years. Ever since my husband and I got married. So I have a really hard time spending money on things. Whether it's clothes or just anything. And I'm starting to like loosen up a little bit when it comes to things for our house, because I would like pieces of furniture that last or that we really like or create an environment that we love. And right now it's like our house is literally a Mod Podge of like furniture I had before we got married and hand-me-downs. And so like creating, and I just don't want to spend money because like we don't know what we're doing with the space yet, but yet it's so hard. And even like with our daughter, we get so many hand-me-downs, which I'm so grateful for because I do not want to spend my money on toys. Like if these people are giving me their toys, I don't want to spend money on something that she's going to play with a little bit and that's it. But it's like organizing that stuff. So like I have clothes that are like 2T, 3T for her that she's not going to fit in yet, but I don't want to get rid of them because I don't want to buy those clothes in a couple of years.
Yeah, but also depending on the number of 2T, 3T clothing that you have, she probably doesn't need nearly as much as maybe you have. And so it's whittling those things down, not necessarily getting rid of things that you do need those things. Those are things that I wouldn't want to get rid of either. But do you need 10 t-shirts for your toddler? Probably not. I know that my kids are regularly wearing the same thing and we just kind of get in this little, like it goes into the wash and then somehow it comes out and you want to wear it again. So I think that children can live with a lot less than we think that they can. And I mean, we can as well as adults. And I really like that you talked about quality over quantity. And that's something I'm a big believer in that I would rather have 5 sweaters that are of high quality that I can wear than 10, not to throw Target under the bus, but 10 Target sweaters that are going to like pill and wear really quickly and that I'm going to have to keep going out and rebuying every year or two. So I like the idea that you're more, I don't want to say that's a frugal mentality, but just you are being intentional about, hey, I want to make sure that the things that we have are quality so that they last and that we love them. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
We're going to take a quick break from this episode so I can talk to you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp has been a part of my mental health journey and my postpartum recovery as well. It doesn't always have to be physical. There's so much mental that goes into motherhood, into this transition in your lives. And there's no shame in having a counselor to talk through these things with and going to therapy. It can be so healing. I've found motherhood to be a very healing time in my life, kind of reflecting on the things that I need to work on and change. And so it's been really great using BetterHelp to be able to have that confidential resource that I can work through these things with. And it's not just for postpartum and motherhood. I mean, any area of your life that you're going through and you need a little help, whether you're depressed or have anxiety, dealing with family issues, relationship issues, sleeping trauma. You can find so many different professionals in these different areas to work with. They're always confidential. It's convenient. It's professional. It's affordable. And you don't have to wait in some awkward office waiting to see your therapist. And in fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/mamas. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mamas. I would consider myself a very frugal person, in general. And sometimes there's definitely benefits and sometimes there's cons of like, you can actually like spend money on something that you like. But that's also why I've learned to love thrifting and like Poshmark. So places like that where you maybe don't have to spend as much money on something that you're finding that fits you better or you know, is higher quality because again, I have trouble. But I actually just worked with a girl, my friend Ashley. She actually organizes closets and she's the one that's helped me get rid of things because I've had the same clothes for 10 years. Like, and she's like, do you wear this? Do you not? Like getting rid of it all. And it has been very therapeutic getting rid of things that I don't fit in or things I never wear, but I still do need a few more staple items. Like I don't have the closet that I know I can put on anything that day. It's still mostly like very, shaggy clothes.
Yeah, it definitely cuts down the amount of time when that people they call it a capsule wardrobe. So some people want to subscribe to a certain number. I don't do that at this point. But I know that when I'm going to get dressed that everything fits me at least. And I'm regularly decluttering too, because sometimes I put something on, I'm like, oh, I don't like this as much on myself as I used to. But I know for the most part that the majority of clothes in my closet look good on me and I want to feel good in my clothes. Why would you want to feel, like I said, that constant reminder of, oh, this doesn't fit me anymore, or this has a hole in it? Like, some of the easy things that you can declutter as you're going through your entire home are things that are broken, which I'm all about fixing if they can be fixed, but things that are just, they've seen better days, it's sometimes it's time to donate or recycle or just get rid of them. As you're going through your home, getting those easy wins. So again, those things that are broken or that's trash. As you're going through your house, you can see some things that are trash, and things that you don't use anymore. And some people have a really hard time saying, well, maybe I will use this in the future. My future self might use this. And I think that, again, if something has overstayed its welcome, and most things you can replace even on Facebook Marketplace for $20 or less typically, or you can borrow them if it's something that you may need in the future. I got rid of my Instant Pot and I was kind of sad about it a month ago, but I gave it to my sister-in-law. So it's like, if I really wanted to use it again, I probably could borrow it from her. And I think honestly, sometimes we hold on to things as a defense mechanism because we don't want to feel the pain that's associated in letting go. But again, if you're getting rational perspective and you're just logically thinking through why you're holding on to the item, it doesn't make sense because, again, that item is a tangible memory as opposed to the memory actually being in your mind. And so I think we don't want to necessarily deal with that emotional side because it can be really emotional getting rid of things. It just, it is. Think about your tissue. Yeah.
You just made me think of like every kitchen appliance that I don't use that I probably should get rid of because I have way too many things in my kitchen. One thing, okay, so I'm going to see if you can help me with this. I have a problem. We've discovered a very sentimental person. So my nieces will write me cards and draw me pictures and I keep every single one. And there's like a box of them now. And my sister, on the other hand, you write her this very I would joke with her. I'd be like, I'd write you a note and you'd be like, oh, thank you so much. And then it's in the trash. And she's like, I do not. I keep it for a little while or I keep a few. She has a small box of whatever. And to me, I think how I feel is my niece drew me this picture. I hang it on the wall for a while. And then if I throw it away, it's going to hurt her feelings. That's how I think. And it's probably not even true. So how do I get rid of just because my kids aren't even grown yet. They're going to bring me, like you said, rocks, leaves, whatever. You'll have boxes and boxes of things if you can't get rid of anything. So how do I depart with those items?
Well, and your daughter isn't to the point to where she's starting to draw and then she's getting better and better. And it's like, oh my gosh, I want to keep all of these things and just see the progress that you've made in your creativity. So I definitely get that. One of the first things that I would say is when it comes to storing things, you need to have boundaries. And so that may be, for example, my family, each of my 3 children have a box of things that I have their baby book in there, or Charlotte has lost her first tooth. And so I have her tooth in there, which is kind of weird, but I want to do that. Yeah. So I would say boundaries are really important when it comes to saving things, but you asked specifically about your niece's drawing. So I am a really big believer in taking a photo of something if you really want to have that, if you don't want those filling up the container. For me, in my daughter's artwork, I will put them into a scrapbook at the end of the year. So our family scrapbook, it's just full of our photo memories. But then at the end, it's Charlotte the artist. And then it's all of these pictures of her different little artistic creations that she's done. And so that way we still can remember it, but we don't have to hold on to those things that are going to fill up a box and they're going to fill up another box. And again, does your niece really know you're not keeping it on? She received the joy when she gave that to you and she had that interaction with you and there was smiles exchanged, hugs. And I think that, again, it's that sadness that we feel oh, that was the memory, but it really wasn't. The connection that she was looking for was when she handed it to you. And so I think that we put too much of it on other people. Oh, what is my mother-in-law going to think if I get rid of this really loud toy that she got for my son for Christmas? And it's she's probably not going to ask because people honestly I don't want to say people are too into their own selves, but it's how often does that happen really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I know. I just need to get rid of a bunch. Well, because I mean, we have, between my husband and I, we have 17 nieces and nephews.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
That's great.
Some of them are grown, but I think the younger ones, man, I don't even know how many younger ones now, like 10. So we get stuff from like both sides of the family, and we're like, my husband's like, we can't keep all of this on display all the time. He's very more minimal than I am. So no, I think that makes sense. Just kind of like, oh, thank you so much, and receiving the joy, and then letting it go.
Well, if you want to put it up on your little bulletin board or your wherever it is that you're displaying it, do that for a period of time. And then again, I will exchange out. So Charlotte has in her room these, what are they? They're from IKEA. They're these cords that hang on the wall, and they have little clips on them. So she chooses her favorite photos or pictures that she's drawn, creations, and we hang them up there. And then when she wants to hang something else up, I usually take a picture of it and then I toss it. And if it's something that's super special, it will go into the box. But if everything is your favorite, then nothing is your favorite, you know? Yeah. So you have to really, again, I feel like so much of minimalism and living with less is you have to be really honest with yourself and the things that you desire to have in your home, that you desire to pursue as a family. And again, with 17 nieces and nephews, it's going to be very unlikely that you're going to be able to keep all of that plus your children's things. So it's hard to do that, but I think getting that perspective and pulling back the lens, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. So what are a few other things, I guess, that you see moms deal with a lot when it comes to toys?
So I think that with toys, you're just experiencing overwhelm maybe throughout the whole house. And I really like to create, again, those boundaries for, hey, this space that we've given you, this is where the toys are going to stay. And hey, in your rooms, this is where these toys are going to stay. And so I think that if we create those boundaries throughout the house, it's not going to feel so overwhelming. And then also limiting the number of toys you allow in your house. So maybe one in, one out. And I know that's easier said than done. But I also think that once you start practicing a lot of a minimalist lifestyle, that it becomes second nature. And outside of the home, I know a lot of moms, if they go to the store with their children, there might be a meltdown because the child really wants a toy. And what I do, I have a running list in the Notes app on my phone. So it's, if my children see something that they want, it's like, okay, let's take a picture of it and put it in the Notes app. And then that way for the holiday season or your birthday, we can let grandma or grandpa know exactly what you want and, kind of curate the things that we want to own that way. So I think I want to say that it's a lot of maybe thinking on the front end of how you want to structure your home and the things that you own. But again, once you start doing that, it doesn't take me a lot of time. It maybe did in the beginning of, hey, this is how we're going to set up our life moving forward now with 3 children. But it's not that hard for me it sounds like I'm overthinking, I guess I should say. And it's really not that way in the day to day because this is just the way it's like second nature at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. Cause I feel that too. Once I start, like once you deep clean your house, right? It's so much easier to upkeep it when you're doing it. And then as soon as you let it start to slip away, then it's like harder again. So it's like, okay, if we're just doing this thing every single day, it's so much easier to keep clean than if we're forgetting or not doing it or not taking those 5 minutes. Because one thing my husband and I always say is we don't want a lot of toys at our house. But we are constantly getting them from other people. We haven't bought her any toys. Everything's been hand-me-downs. I did get a couple of Love Every boxes for her in the beginning. But I mean, it's all been hand-me-downs. And already it's too much.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. And I think, again, that's why you have to stay on top of it. And especially because they're going to start having opinions. And so that's, I think, one of my biggest things is that I don't want to create little hoarders because mommy has said, no, you can't bring this into the house. So like, that's why I said with the boundaries of, hey, you can keep this in your room, or if you're going to bring in this thing, then we're going to have to get rid of something else. And again, they might throw a tantrum at the beginning, but that's just the way that your family dynamic works. And I I would say if you start this little enough, then it's just, they don't know anything different.
Right.
And my biggest thing is I don't want to put something on my children that they were never as like on board with from the get-go, especially if you have older children. I think that they should have the authority to say some of the things that they want to keep, but then it's like, okay, well, it needs to fit within these bounds that we've created as a family.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for like the holidays? I know some people with Christmas do like the whatever, I don't remember, like one thing you want, one thing you need, one thing to wear, one thing to read.
Need, want, wear, read. Yeah. And so that's what we do. My parents and my husband's family, they're super generous at the holidays and birthdays and Easter. And they're definitely wanting to give us gifts all the time. We have some love languages of gift giving in the family. But all that to say, I definitely love those lists. I think that's super helpful. They know at this point, my husband and I have been married for 10 years, that we try to live a lifestyle with less. And so I think maybe family members might not get that right away when you first start pursuing a different type of lifestyle. But I think leading by example and them seeing this, they're like, okay, they are more intentional about the things that they want. So I will oblige. We have a few that don't do that. And so again, those lists are really, really helpful. But for us, we just do the need, want, wear, read, because it keeps the focus on the holiday, specifically at Christmas, on what we want it to be focused on. And that's our religion at that point. But I would also say we are so bombarded with gifts from other people that it really is, let's just have these 4 things. And you can change it up too. It doesn't have to be need, want, wear, read. It can be maybe an experience gift or this, or I don't know, fill in the blank on how it works best for your family. But I also really want that day to be about the experiences. So we're in our PJs all day, maybe, or we watch a Christmas movie together, and don't make it so much about the tangibles as opposed to like the memories that you're building that day. There can be gifts within that day that aren't toys. So it's just on how you structure your time and your day.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up, I'd love for you just to tell us a little bit about your podcast and then your book.
Yes, I wrote a book last year during COVID, which was kind of insane, but thank you to my husband for giving me some afternoons and mornings during the summer to write. But yeah, my book is Minimalist Moms, Living and Parenting with Simplicity. And it is basically structured, I call them mantras on the podcast, but they're just areas of focus in the book. So there's time minimalism, more like tangible minimalism, as in decluttering and like the things around our home that are catching us up, I guess. And then what was the other one? I can't think of the other one right now. It's slipping my head. But then there's bigger sections on sentimental items, pregnancy and postpartum, sustainability, and the holidays. And so those mantras are split up by those bigger sections. And I really just wanted to write a book that, as moms, I know it's really hard to sit down and read. And so it's just little snippets that you can read throughout, like, the week. And I don't necessarily need you to consume it all in one day. I think it's something that you can come back to. And for example, one of the things that I said earlier, quality over quantity. So that's one of the mantras. And if you start like thinking about that, it's helpful as you're pursuing, or not pursuing, but as you go to the store and want to, again, like buy the things that are fitting into your home. So
That's awesome.
It's starting to rain here. Can you hear the rain?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens. I was doing a podcast once and it started raining and the wind was blowing so hard. The rain was just hitting the window and it sounded like glass was breaking. But weather happens.
Oh, sorry.
We all have it. So before we wrap up, then just tell us about your podcast real quick.
Yeah. So the podcast is the Minimalist Moms podcast, and it's wherever you're probably listening to you. And I, again, just have guests on here or on my show that are of various backgrounds and expertise. And a lot of them are just moms like you and I that just have a passion for a certain topic that I like to, I guess, interview and just dialogue with about certain topics. So again, I don't want minimalism to look like some sparse, bare-boned home or boring life that seems really sterile. I want to be applicable to moms of many or moms of many children. And I just don't think minimalism has to be nearly as overwhelming as that we see portrayed. So yeah, that's what I like to do.
Isn't it crazy how you might think minimalism is overwhelming It's like two polar opposites. It's like, I want to be a minimalist, but it's so overwhelming. And it's like, once you get there, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's really freeing to not be so tied down to my things and to, again, value experiences and relationships over the tangible items. So I definitely think that there's so much freedom to be found in a home with less and just living with less in general, even in my schedule. So,
yeah. So where can people find and follow you at?
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's the Minimalist, I think it's at Minimalist Moms Podcast. The website is minimalistmomspodcast.com. And then you can find the book. I have a whole link on there where you can buy the book. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Make sure you guys go check out her podcast. It's awesome. And I'm a guest on there. Look out for that episode coming out, I believe, in June sometime. And we just had so much fun swapping podcasts and sharing what we are passionate about with each other. And that's why I love doing this, is hearing people's hearts and their passions, and just getting to learn and grow with you guys. Again, I cannot stress enough how much I need to declutter my life. This episode was inspiring for me. The other night it was like late and I told Vito, I'm like, let's just go in the closet and just throw some stuff out. And he's like, no, I'm too tired. I'm like, okay, you just missed an opportunity to throw away any of my things that you wanted because I was feeling inspired. But I'm sure we'll do it again soon. And I feel like moving is hard. Like, we moved into our house a few years ago and I still don't really feel settled sometimes. Like, there's still a few things that I don't know where they belong. Like, where is their home in our house? I have no idea. Still trying to figure out, can we hang this picture up here or put this thing over there? I think also because we are redoing our home, it's hard to fully settle when you know that you're going to shift and move things around and tear things down and stuff like that. We finally just almost finished the outside of our house. It's been a couple of years. Finishing up the landscaping this next month, and I'm excited to have that done. And then with the inside, we're just gonna slowly but surely do it. So it'll be done in like 10, 15 years. But I can take it as each time we redo a room, I can go in and just purge, just get rid of a bunch of things that I've never used. I know that there are things in my kitchen, like large appliances that take up a lot of space that do not get used. But if I want to use them one time a year, it really comes in handy. So how do you let those things go? It's so hard. Oh my gosh. I'd love for you guys to write me and tell me what areas you have a hard time decluttering and why. I would feel less alone if I know I'm not the only one who has issues with clutter. And they say, clutter physically is also clutter mentally, which I definitely believe. Like, when my house is a disaster, I'm so stressed out. My mind is like jumbled as well. But when everything's clean and organized, I just feel so much more at peace. And then I can sit down and like give my full focus to something else. But it's so hard, like when you have kids, to have that, organization and all of that. I know Jovi's in this phase where she's crawling everywhere and pulling herself up on everything and getting out her toys and like crawling with them halfway across the floor and leaving things everywhere. And sometimes I'm like, it's just pointless to put it all back in the basket every hour because she's just going to pull it back out. So I get it. It's definitely hard, but we are in this motherhood journey together and there's no judgment. If you have a perfectly kept home, kudos, tell me your secrets. If you don't, I feel you and I see you, and motherhood can just be messy sometimes. But anyways, it's definitely something I need to work on in my life. All right. Again, next week, Christy Lucasiac is coming on and I am super excited. She, like I said, she was just such a blast to talk to. And it's nice talking to people who are parents of different generations. So she has a kid in 12th grade and then a kid in college. So just kind of her perspective on that as well, which is a lot of fun. Make sure you are subscribed. Look out for the changes in the podcast that are going to be coming. Super excited about, like I said, it's going to be a slow progression, but I just want to give you guys a heads up for that. And I hope that you are enjoying your May. At the end of the month, we are having on a psychologist because it is Maternal Mental Health Month. And every May I like to talk about that because it's definitely something that's super important. So Momfully You of Instagram is going to be joining us, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear the episode. All right. I love you. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. And then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.